nothing got done, there was a massive tax increase on every American who pays taxes. And that substantively is what President Obama wanted. He wants to raise taxes on Americans to pay for his massive expansion of government spending. That gave him a real advantage in that negotiation. Now, thinking strategically, that advantage has dissipated. In fact, it's disappeared. And the debt ceiling is the mirror image of that. The debt ceiling, fiscal conservatives own the default. We have the advantage because if nothing is done, there's a partial government shutdown. And that, if conservatives stand together, gives us the leverage to extract real reforms to address the out-of-control spending, the out-of-control debt, and to adopt pro-growth policies that will actually get the economy growing and get people back to work.
I just wonder, and I'm not trying to put you on the spot, I just wonder if there are enough Republicans, particularly in the Senate, who will grasp this, who will stand shoulder to shoulder, because what I see is a lot of them grandstand, they start peeling off, they start making statements that kind of undermine a concerted, conservative, offensive position, and it happened during the fiscal cliff too. So this could be a big problem, I think, just keeping the ranks closed.
There's no doubt it comes down to, number one, if Republicans in the Senate can stand together, if we can collectively have a backbone, and number two, if Republicans in the House. I mean, we've got a majority in the House. If we just stand up, the House, the media says every day, well, President Obama was reelected, he gets his due. Seems to me the very same American people who reelected Barack Obama also reelected a majority in the House and put John Boehner, a Republican, in the Speaker's chair. And those House Republicans have every bit the mandate Barack Obama does. I'll tell you, when I meet with the Texas delegation of the House Republicans, I tell them all the time, I say, listen, just stand strong. My job is in large part to be your cheerleader and remind you, you got elected, you got a mandate from your people, and they didn't send you to keep spending money, keep building the debt, and keep growing the problem. They sent you here to fix the problem and turn things around.
I want to hit one more issue with you before you go here.
Sure.
In Politico, and for some reason a lot of Republicans like to talk to these folks, Jonathan Martin writes, the disastrous 2012 election and embarrassing fiscal cliff standoff has brought forth one principal conclusion from establishment Republicans. They have a primary problem. And it goes on and on about how the Republicans need to fix the primary problem. And basically what it is it's establishment Republicans talking about how we need to protect establishment Republicans.
Right.
Because apparently every outside candidate that runs, I guess you and Rubio and Rand Paul and Mike Lee and so forth, you and these other guys, you guys are fine, but we have all these crackpots out there. And I'm thinking to myself, did not moderate and liberal Republicans lose in general elections too? Are there not crackpot liberal and moderate Republicans out there? I am very, very concerned about this, Ted, to be perfectly honest with you.
Look, you are exactly right. I read the story you're talking about. I thought the whole story was pretty silly. If you look at in 2010, our most significant victories were for strong conservatives that stood up in primaries, whether it was Marco Rubio or Mike Lee or Rand Paul or Pat Toomey or Ron Johnson. I mean, the strongest new conservative leaders in the Senate came precisely when the establishment in Washington wasn't picking primary winners, when it was the grassroots, when it was the people saying, enough already with this career politicians who don't stand for anything, give us people with backbones. And even 2012, the media tries to write the story that every loss is the Tea Party's fault. Well, if you look at the three new Republican senators who won, myself, Jeff Flake, and Deb Fischer, all three of us did it with substantial Tea Party support and an awful lot of moderate establishment candidates that were picked because they were, quote, the most electable on earth. They got clobbered. And one component of what happens sometimes is the moderate establishment takes an attitude of, if they can't win, they're going to take their marbles and go home. And I'll give you an example. A few weeks ago in the Virginia gubernatorial race, Ken Cuccinelli, the Attorney General, is a good man and a friend. I like Ken and respect him. He's a strong conservative. He's running for governor. There was some time where the Lieutenant Governor Bowling, was talking about running for governor as well. He decided not to run. It's a front-page story in the Washington Post with the Lieutenant Governor saying, I'm not going to run for governor. They asked him, are you going to support Cuccinelli? And the Lieutenant Governor says, no, I'm not. I don't think he'd make a good governor. So you've got this moderate incumbent who's throwing rocks at the person who's likely going to be the Republican nominee and basically saying, go vote for the Democrat instead, because if I can't win, I'm taking my marbles and go home, and I want us to lose the seat instead. And you don't hear a peep from Washington about what kind of irresponsible, why are you, they scream at the Tea Party, but they don't scream at someone saying something like that.
And that kind of behavior cost Ollie North a Senate seat, too, in Virginia. And you're exactly right. There's a Big Ten, and it only goes one way, apparently.
Well,
hey, Ted,
and I'll point out in Indiana, Richard Murdoch. One of the reasons Murdoch lost is a lot of the longtime supporters of Dick Lugar didn't support Murdoch.
Including Dick Lugar.
That has a consequence. And somehow that side of the story never gets told. I think Washington is lousy at picking winners and losers. And in fact, you look at 2010, 2012, my race, if it were up to Washington, I never would have won the primary.
No.
Marco Rubio, if it were up to Washington, Charlie Crist, who's now become a Democrat, would have been the Republican nominee.
Right.
I have a whole lot more faith in the people, in conservatives on the ground, to identify who's going to be a strong conservative candidate, who actually believes something, and who's going to stand up and fight and not be beholden to just feeding the Leviathan, just growing Washington.
Ted, if Washington had picked, there'd never be a Ronald Reagan either, because they despised him and they fought him.
And he... The only way conservatives get elected is to stand with the people and essentially kick down the doors and win the race. Mm-hmm. And fortunately, in recent years, we've seen more and more conservatives doing exactly that.
And there's going to be a lot more if I have anything to say about it. Well, Senator Cruz, and I love that, the Honorable Ted Cruz, I want to thank you for coming on the program, and I wish you all the best, particularly many victories.
Well, I appreciate it, Mark. We've got a lot to do. You played a huge, huge role in my victory in Texas, and I'm appreciative, very, very appreciative. And you're going to play a huge role going forward, particularly in this debt ceiling debate, because last time Republicans did such a poor job explaining that it wasn't about defaulting on the debt. It was about a partial shutdown to fix the problem and stop bankrupting the country. And you've obviously got a very loud megaphone. I'm going to do my best to explain that, but your megaphone is a heck of a lot more potent than mine, and so I'm so appreciative that you are using it loudly and effectively to get the message out, and hopefully to get the message out not just to your listeners, because your listeners are engaged and know what's happening, but to get the message out to the people who aren't listening to you, to have your listeners talk to their friends and coworkers and neighbors who don't have the sense to dial in and listen to you, but who need to know the truth, that the person threatening a default on the debt is President Obama and not the Republicans who are trying to stop from bankrupting our kids.
All right, Ted, we got to go. You're inspiring. It's a thrill to have you in the Senate. It's a thrill to call you my friend. God bless to you, and have a wonderful new year. Folks, we'll be right back.
Mark Levin.